Next, the mortgage industry. What a year or two it has been for our industry. As we look back on the industry, I think of the Michael Douglas movie Wall Street. It was a movie about 20 years ago where Michael Douglas plays a character, I believe his name was Gordon Gekko, and he was a corporate raider, a Wall Street baron. And there's a famous scene where he takes over the annual meeting of a corporation, and he's the largest shareholder, and he gets the microphone and he walks up in front of this hall full of people and he gives an inspiring speech. And in that speech he gives a famous line where he talks about greed. And in front of all these people, in front of the board, in front of the shareholders, he says, "Greed is good. Greed is right. It works. It clarifies." And he goes on to say all the good things that greed does for corporate America and America as a country. Well, as we found out in our industry, Michael Douglas and Gordon Gekko just weren't right. Greed wasn't or isn't good. Greed, in our opinion, got out of hand in our industry, and now we're paying a price for it. Where did the greed come from? What was the greed? If you look at these pie charts, if you go back to 2001, conventional lending made up over half of the loans that were made in America, and subprime loans made up less than 10% of all the loans that were made. Over the next 5 years, if you look at this, subprime loans grew to be over a third of the loans that were made in America, and conventional loans shrunk down to being around a third also. The other staying steady at a third. The other is going to be your construction loans, your home equity loans, jumbo loans, etc. Again, so subprime grew exponentially over that time frame. If you look at 2008, what happened? Again, subprime collapsed under the weight of itself. Now it's down to less than 5% of the greater market. And conventional loans are back up well over 60% in this chart here. What do those subprime loans look like? How are they performing? They seem like such a great idea at the time. Uh-oh, not so good. Subprime ARM default rate is 20 times that of prime fixed rate mortgages. Again, if you look at that hockey stick chart at the end there, the subprime ARMs, that red line skyrocketing up, a 27, almost 27% default rate, versus look at the blue line on the bottom, a 1.3% default rate, or in the middle, the FHA and VA rates of less than 5% default. Again, Michael Douglas was wrong. Greed isn't good, and this is the effect that greed within the housing industry and the U.S. economy as a whole had on our economy and the market. So going forward, what does this mean? What are we going to do? What's happening? The word of the day is going to be govies, government loans. Government loans are growing at a rapid pace. Some have called FHA the new subprime. Wouldn't call it that myself. It's a very different loan product than subprime. But again, the government loans are stepping in. The government insured loans, I should say, are stepping in and filling part of that gap. As you can see, since 2000, that market was shrinking right along with the growth of subprime. Again, subprime was taking it over, and much of the conventional lending was taking it over, to where in 2006, 2007, FHA loans made up less than 5% of the greater market. In all of our minds, it was done. FHA was going away. But lo and behold, now FHA is appearing to be the savior of this whole situation. Again, I don't think they're the same as subprime loans. They're not going to have the same effect. You saw the previous slide where their default rates and foreclosure rates are much lower than what the subprime loans are. And as you can see, in 2008, it's projected they're going to grow up to be almost 10% of the loans made. 2010, it's projected they'll be close to 15%. Our prediction is that in 2010 it'll be over 15 and maybe as high as 20% of loans made will be FHA loans. So within our industry, that which was bad is gone. Some proven loan products have been around for decades, are coming back into favor, and in a lot of ways are saving the day and are going to help get this housing market back on track.